used to get in trouble.
Yeah. Dennis, ex-husband, was in the military, and he won Airman of the Year, and they had an award ceremony down there. And we met up with his parents and had dinner down there on the block. Man, that's been 14 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it's been longer than that since I was there.
I guess 13, because they had Cooper at the time. Well, I'm going to take this down and show everyone how to use it.
Okay.
And I'm going to take your phone.
Okay. And then let us know if you look and make sure we're live, and should you bring your tablet? I've got my phone. Oh, okay. Well, when you get to the office, I can check right now. Yeah, it shows we are.
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Need anything? Do I have to have anything? Or else? Oh, okay, yeah, she'll have my phone. All right. Thanks, ma'am. You're welcome. And I think everybody knows where they're supposed to start. The only one is getting Karen back going. I think I gave her everything she needs that she was using that first day.
Okay.
So, yeah. Okay. Did you see the big production we have going on in our office when you came in the other day, or did you?
I just came in the door.
Oh, okay.
Evelyn was getting on the elevator.
Oh, okay.
And I looked around here, this room was dark, and I said, are we meeting upstairs or in here? We don't have a meeting today. You know what I remembered then? At that moment, see, we went down to Hot Springs, of course. We left Friday morning. What day was it we met last? Was it last Thursday?
Thursday, yes.
As we were leaving,
Mm-hmm.
I was walking out with Renee, and I was looking at my calendar. I said, Renee, the Monday that we had scheduled for the meeting for Monday the 21st, did the 24th replace that? And she said, yeah, that was gone. I said, I got to remember to get this off my calendar.
Yeah.
That's the last I thought about it until
Well,
Monday.
Max did the same thing.
Did he?
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
I'm in good company now.
Yes.
Anyway, so what was going on?
We're doing our proofing of all the ballots. So I have like 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 people in my office, and they get assigned a place on the ballot. So one person is just voting for the very first candidate all the way through for every single precinct, and then another one is voting for the second one all the way through every. So it's 315 precincts, and by the time we're done, we'll voted over 4,000 ballots. So yeah, so we've got a little production going on in there.
You're then checking going back through and checking to make sure the ballot voted correctly?
Yep.
The same person that voted checking it, or somebody else?
No, so what we do is we make, so I call them just, they're decks.
Yeah.
So this is, you know, deck first candidate, deck second candidate, deck 3 candidate, and then I run them through the machine. And I look at the tape, so on that tape, I should only see votes for the very first candidate all the way through.
And you know how many?
And then I know, and I go through the precincts list, and I know, so for State Senate District 30, there should be 39 votes. If there's not 39 votes there, then I know they've either failed to vote one, or they voted a ballot twice, because the other thing I look for, all the stacks should have 315 ballots. So right away, if I do my count, and they're below or under, well, we're missing, or we've doubled up on one. And so, and then on the 450, I have it actually out and using it. I can run a report out of it that shows me the precincts counted, so I can easily find where they've overvoted a precinct or not voted a precinct. And so we'll do that for each individual stack. So yeah. So, and by the time we're done with that, then we know we should have everything connected correctly and voted correctly and all of that,
Yeah,
so.
it's an old saying in problem solving, need to run all the traps. You will have run all the traps.
Yep. Yep, we do, we run because there's some things, just proofing reports you don't see, or don't notice, or you overlooked on the report, and when you pull it up on the screen, it just is staring at you like, why didn't I see that?
Yeah.
And then in the tapes, sometimes we'll find a mistake that we might not see, so we even go over the tapes to make sure the tapes look good, so yeah.
That's good. Very, very thorough.
We try to be, that, the very first year, this was before I started, I think it was maybe 6 or 7 months before I started, when they got the brand new voting equipment, the old Ivotronics, well, the staff went and did LNA on them. And at that point, those machines actually held votes. And so no one told them from ES&S that you needed to clear the machines. So that very first election they went to use them, all the supervisors were calling that morning, my machines have votes on them. You know, you're supposed to run that zero tape, and they're supposed to have, you know, and so they were having to scramble going out and clearing machines and everything and stuff. So, yeah, it's always a learning process, but it was like, whew. Is everybody there?
I don't know who else supposed to be there,
Is
but.
Joyce and Tom?
Tom's there.
Is
There's-
Karen?
There's a lady in there with, Shannon.
Yeah, Judy.
Judy, that's Judy, okay. And Connie, I think, in there?
Okay, so Karen, who was sitting where is gonna sit where Willie was sitting, she's not there yet.
I haven't seen her.
Okay,
What time are you supposed to come in?
9, I think.
So you use, poll workers?
I bring poll
to
workers in.
Do that?
Yeah, so, I like people who've not seen the ballot, you know, because once you've proved something once, if you try and go over it again, you're just glancing at it.
Yeah.
So bringing in poll workers who've not ever seen the ballot helps,
Yeah,
so, yeah,
I agree.
so.
Well, what'd you think about the courts, throwing out 4 of the election?
So, the thing that, and we've experienced this before, where we went and trained all our poll workers one way, and then 3 weeks later, the runoff, we had to say, forget everything else we told you, we're doing it this way now. So that's the part for me that I'm like, I know that the Attorney General said they're going to appeal. Absentee ballots go out April the 8th, and that voter statement is not gonna have that optional verification on it. So if the court, keeps with the original ruling, then we've sent out materials that don't give the voters the option to sign that verification. So that, to me, is like of essence, like a decision needs to be made before April 8th. Tom, I kinda, if you wanna sit down there, or if you wanna sit over here, Debbie's not gonna be here, so wherever you would like to sit is fine.
You're gonna sit outside of camera?
That's what I was
Hi, Tom.
wondering.
Off screen here.
Yes, you should sit your, yeah.
Chairs. I need to number these or do something.
We need to tag them with our names, because we're really the office that uses this the most. Tom's chair, Jim's, yeah, so. Yeah, it's the absentee ballot one, because the other part of it too is, on the back, it has instructions on when to return it, and that would change as well, so.
talking about your court case down there.
Yeah, what are they gonna do and how it could impact absentee voting?
Was there a second, lawsuit filed,
About
on the,
redistricting?
what was, yeah.
Yeah.
About the maps, there's
Yeah.
another one filed about the maps too.
So that's still being done.
Yeah,
So the Attorney General is, appealing the ruling on the, absentee ballots.
Yep.
Those 4,
mhm,
new
yeah,
laws. But since the court has declared them unconstitutional, we have to proceed as if they don't exist, is that?
no, we will wait direction from the Secretary of State's office and the SBEC. So they have already kind of put out notice that we, we'll do what we were instructed to do at training.
Yeah,
And I think the appeal kind of halts the injunction.
They'd have to get a judge to say so first.
Oh, okay. So I
think the,
so,
Whichever court it's appealed to.
he has to say,
Say that injunction, that's just.
say it, yeah.
yeah.
That's
So
what
from what I know, I mean, and Daniel was quoted in the paper yesterday, I think it was, saying that right now they've instructed us to not do anything differently. So, but I told, I was talking to Becky in the clerk's office the other day, because Kim was getting ready to stuff a bunch of envelopes for absentee ballots with the voter statement. I said, I'd wait, because you don't know, and then you're gonna have to unstuff them or,
Well, surely they'll get, the appeals court to take some action,
yeah.
A stay, or go ahead and make a decision or something. But now, this is not, the appeals court, I don't know the level of courts, but that wouldn't be the state Supreme Court.
Tom, you probably know more,
Yeah.
more than
But
you
would
do. I
the
don't,
next step be the Supreme Court, is that,
Probably.
yeah?
the only thing I can remember too from the last time, because the cases were going on right about the same time.
Yeah,
And once absentee voting started, regardless of the ruling, I think they wanted to stay with whatever we started with, because you don't want to change voting procedures in the middle
extreme, yeah.
of an election. So, we have not trained our poll workers yet, so I really am hoping we know something before April.
Before, yeah.
Yeah, so that we don't have to say, okay, it's different.
April is next week.
I know.
Sure is, next Friday.
So, but then they have one more week. Absentees don't go out until like April 8th, so. And I think Becky has less than 200 in her office right now, so it's not a lot.
Debbie's not coming back in.
No, she's gonna stay down there and keep
Supervise.
them out of trouble.
Yeah, good idea.
Who's gonna, what, Debbie's gonna keep somebody out of trouble?
In theory, yeah, she's gonna keep them out of trouble.
Okay.
Hello, how are you? Good, how are you? Good. Is everyone enjoying this weather? If it can make up its mind, you don't know how to dress before you leave the house. So, yeah.
Well, you get about July and August, you'll be wanting something to wear.
I know.
Knocking doors, and it was so cold yesterday.
Yeah. That wind too doesn't, yeah, that wind was something else.
Cut right through you.
Because you can handle the cold when it's not windy, or, and the moisture in the air too, like when it's a dry cold, yeah.
Agenda and packet for me somewhere.
There is,
No, Tom.
You said the new precinct?
that's the JP map with the house district.
Oh, okay.
This one is the JP map, and I can pull this one out too. But unless you know where you're at on the map, it's not, it's
Doesn't
a
have
bunch
streets
of- it
and
looks like
stuff.
a Jackson Pollock painting, kind of, so. But yeah. Tried to do, your map down there has roads on it and the outline of city limits, but it's still not
Yeah.
super helpful. But if you get too much stuff on there, like those tiny little precincts, you can't tell where they are, so it makes it difficult to have a map of everything on. Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
All right. Oh, I'm early.
You're way
An hour early, yeah.
An hour early? Oh, it is still on that time, isn't it? Oh, my goodness. It'll be that way until, actually, you know, they're talking about making daylight savings time permanent, so it might be that way forever.
But it's not until 2023.
Oh, is that right?
Understanding, yeah, it's.
Have they I mean, is that,
It passed through the Senate, was my understanding. But
Okay.
if you look at least one article I saw, it said that it wouldn't start until 2023. And
okay,
I think that in some ways, because you have to think about, like, so for instance, all of our express votes and our tablets are set up to automatically
right,
change
right.
their time with daylight savings time in it, because that
Yeah.
was a big deal from our old iVotron
Right,
to our new.
yes,
The old ones didn't automatically update, and sometimes early voting will have already started, and
Right.
the time change would happen, and so we would have to go in.
I remember
manually.
that, yeah.
Right. So
Wow.
that was a big thing about the new iVotron, they have the updated, thing with it,
Mhm.
and so the daylight savings time will automatically change. Well, now, if that becomes permanent, well, there's a setting.
They'll have to all be,
We'll have to go into all of those
yeah,
settings and turn that off
right,
and everything, so it's,
Wow.
you know, there's little things like that
Oh,
that I think that will impact your daily life that you didn't
Yes.
think about.
yeah, yeah.
So, but that was what I thought about, I was like, 'cause we're always like, oh, did we update it, did it update, you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so this would be, if that happens, we'll have to go in and
Oh, my
turn that
goodness.
off on all of our express votes and
Yeah.
our tablets.
And there's probably some other wrinkles that,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I'm sure nobody's thought about some of those wrinkles, and it's just sort of, well, that's what's gonna happen. I don't know, I'm here and there about that. So, I guess I better turn off my phone.
I kinda like the evenings being,
Oh, me too, yeah,
Lighter.
yeah, I do too, I do too.
but I'm an early morning person,
Oh.
so, you know, it's like really dark. when
Yeah,
you're,
it
you know,
sure is.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and just about the time you get used to it, we're going back the other way. So, it is, frustrating, but first world problems. Not a big deal.
But it is strange when you have those states that have passed it, that they don't,
Mhm.
Arizona one, I think.
I
that's
think
sort of
so,
like
yeah,
those states
yeah.
don't do it.
Well, and, I remember when I lived in Chicago for a year, you know, you go over to Indiana and you're in a different time zone, or you're in, I mean, it's,
There were parts of Indiana.
yes,
Not the
yes.
whole state, so it was even stranger.
That's exactly right, and it's like, how do you keep up with all this? Good morning.
Good morning, Daylight Savings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. We're talking about if they do, you say the bill, it's only passed the Senate.
Only passed the Senate, but it won't go into effect until 2023.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it may not pass the House.
It may not, so yeah.
It may be a moot issue at this point. Okay, it is 9:00, and we will call this meeting to order. First item of business is the approval of the minutes for the previous meeting. Have y'all had a chance to look at those?
Yeah, they look fine to me.
Okay. We're going to accept the minutes as presented and move on. Precinct map approval. And where are we, oh, we looking at the big thing there?
So, yes, so this is, all of everyone's hard work, finally
Yeah.
a precinct map. And so we went over it, and Becky's gone over it, and so all the changes we've requested are all reflected in this current map that you have.
Is that this one?
That is that one.
Okay.
We are required, and I've got an order, we're required to sign an order accepting the new precinct, and we're required to submit a map. And then the other item you have is the written description.
This one?
Yes,
Oh, this is,
that.
whoa.
So the written description is based off of the census block.
Okay,
And so that is the accepted written description that the state GIS will take, so that,
Wow.
is the written description. And then the shape files is the third part, and of course, that's on my computer to
Okay.
send to Becky's office.
this is for numbers people.
It is, it
Oh, wow.
means nothing to me when I look at it, but
Wow.
it has those census blocks.
Yeah.
So when the GIS people go, they know where those census blocks are, and so each census block is assigned to a precinct.
Okay.
Does that new software program automatically create that report?
So it did in some parts. I had to go in and because we gave new precinct names and new precinct ID numbers. We
yeah.
had to go in and make those changes,
Okay.
for it. And so like, for instance, we made some small changes, like, we used to have a Wheeler H and a Wheeler
Okay.
S
Mhm.
and a Wheeler. And I could never keep straight, what did the Wheeler H mean and what did the Wheeler S mean? So
Yeah.
now it's just Wheeler 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Ah.
Yeah, I get
Now.
it. Okay.
Okay.
So we cleaned up some of those things like that to make our system a little bit simpler, like we're not trying to remember H's and S's.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
numbers. And so, but yeah, so that's everything we've worked on.
Okay.
When the, folks, I know when we worked on it, on the, county-wide map, we had to keep census blocks together. They had to do the same thing for the statewide maps, didn't they? The census blocks can't be split up.
So they can be split up, but you have to have a reason to split them up.
Okay.
And so typically they're not split up. But what we found as we were going through this process, we now have 223 precincts.
Wow.
With 315 splits
Mhm.
inside of those all together. That's what the split shows. When we put the House, the Senate, the JP maps all lined up on one another,
Mhm.
there were an additional 200 slivers of
Yeah.
nothing, of down the middle of the interstate, in just, in between city streets, where you would have a neighborhood and the street that ran behind the neighborhood, there would be a little sliver right between the road and the and the houses. So we had to go through all of those slivers to make sure there were no houses in any of those. And so when we did that, we now ended up with 22 precincts with 20 or fewer voters, because some of those slivers ended up having a house in it, or 2 houses in it. And then we ended up with 6 precincts that have 0 registered voters in them, because there's a potential, the area was big enough that there's potential that there could be, or there was a house there, but the people weren't registered to vote. But obviously, like a sliver that's down the middle of Interstate 49, nobody's gonna build a house there.
Right.
So we would just then push that little sliver into the precinct next to it. So we had to go through and identify all of those areas just manually on a map, pulling them up, taking it out to look and see if we could find a structure inside of it. So that's what we spent our free time doing. But yes.
Not exactly free time.
So, it didn't quite, the census blocks, I think if they had never split the census blocks in tiny little areas, maybe we wouldn't have had those. Or if the House and Senate would have matched up their lines, we wouldn't have had that. If the House and Senate would use school district lines, we wouldn't have had those, because those will never change, school district lines.
Right.
Very rarely will they change. But instead, some of them would follow a street, some of them would follow a railroad track, some of them would follow a river. And so, so we ended up with odd little slivers, we called them.
Wow.
And I don't wanna drag this out, but just let me clarify. You said that what you were doing here and this that we have today is something that's workable, but sometime during the next year, there will be some going back and re-looking and trying to maybe, make any changes or clean up or?
Yes. We still have not, these maps, these precinct maps do not reflect, the city of Fayetteville ward.
Right.
Got it.
So usually the city of Fayetteville works with us on not splitting precincts, but because we didn't have our process finished, and they've already submitted their ward maps to us, we may find that there are some precincts that they split, not knowingly, that will then create a new precinct that will have to come back. But those precincts we don't have to have until the general election, because the city of Fayetteville is not on this map. So that will have to be addressed, but also I would like, and we just did not have the time to do it, I would like us to get away from these school splits inside precincts and just make them their own individual precinct. And then some of our numbering system is out of sync. So for instance, Fayetteville, the city of Fayetteville starts a numbering system with 240, and that's Fayetteville District 1. Well, and then Becky would skip 10, and that would be Fayetteville 2. When she got down to the bottom of Fayetteville, the very next precinct was like Greenland, but there wasn't a space of 10 between the Fayetteville 48 and Greenland. So we had to go back in and fill in numbers. So for instance, Fayetteville 1 is 240, but Fayetteville 49 is 241. So there's things like that, yes, we want to go back and correct. Does it impact voters? No. Does it impact the precincts assigned to the districts? None of that. It's really just a cleanup in regards to making it alphabetical.
It's more like
numeric,
making it sensible for y'all.
for us.
So you can keep up with it, and it has an arrangement that is logical.
Yes. And that we do want to do, but we just did not have the time with the Senate and races, and then with the census not coming out in a timely manner. And then when we ran into all of these slivers, it just became time-consuming to make sure. So there is one other part of the puzzle too, that the state GIS called us on this week to say, and you've got a map in front of you.
You talking about this?
Yeah, that one.
Yes, okay. If you look on the Cane Hill, and then I've got Cove Creek. But on the Cane Hill, this little bottom here where it stair steps, down there by the number 5.
Yeah.
Okay. So we had already noticed that that was an issue with why didn't the Senate push their lines to match those little stair steps which follow a school district line? Somewhere along the way, on the state map, for State Senate District 35, this shapefile we have been using is the shapefile everyone has been using for State 35. But the written description is different on the state side than what the map reflects. So there's a discrepancy.
For the new one or the old one?
For the new one, the one that has been approved, they found a discrepancy.
Okay.
The only one in the whole state, and it happened to us. So, we think there's going to have to be a precinct created here, but they're having to get approval from the Attorney General's office and the attorneys, because now we're changing a state senate line, or are they gonna stick with what the map says and not the description? And I don't know what the answer to that is. This new precinct, we think, there's 29 households. We don't know how many voters that is, but it impacts 29 households. We think we can just bump them into Cane Hill 1 is where we think we can bump them in. But what that does is it changes the outline of the precinct map. So
Just
we
in
will,
that little area.
just in this tiny little area. So the commission can approve the precinct map as presented today, and then that, we've met our deadline for the
Right.
precinct. We've submitted everything to the state. The state will then have all of our shape files, and people can start like looking at precinct maps and precinct relations and all of that. But we do know that tiny little area we're gonna have to come back and address, unless the state says we're leaving it as is, and I don't honestly know, and Shelby didn't have an answer for me, yesterday.
Okay.
So, for us, as long as those voters can be pushed into that Cane Hill, we're good on not having to create a brand new precinct. If we have to create a brand new precinct and I can't match it to any of the ballots, we'll have to kind of go back to our programming and add a new precinct. But because we're a PYO county, that would be an issue to be able to do that. So that's a little wrinkle in our precinct map.
Well, that's no big deal. If we have to add the precinct, we do that all the time when a precinct gets too big, with too many voters, right?
True.
Yes.
True.
Yeah.
Yes. And I've gone through, and none of our newly created precincts are over 3,000, so we
good.
don't have to worry about that. The only thing we will have to come back in is address the city of Fayetteville, but that can be something we do
Down the
after.
road.
Yes.
Okay, so, so this issue with the Cane Hill stuff is basically on hold until you hear from, the Attorney General's office or from?
Or
SC?
Shelby, yeah.
Okay, somebody in the
State GIS.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And they called me and, you know, he said, just don't take any action yet. He said, I want you to be aware of this. It will change your precinct, you know, and it'll change the drawing of your precinct. Now, the nice thing is, in Power Profile, Becky can, without us having to redo the map, we can go ahead and pull, once we have identified this area, we can pull the voters into the right precinct, and they will get the correct ballot on election day. Maybe the map doesn't quite show that's where they're at, but we can identify those voters and ensure that they do get the right
Mhm.
ballot. So we will be able to do that, but I think we'll have to come back and approve this little new precinct
Okay,
whenever
okay,
we
but,
get direction.
yeah, once we've got direction, but in the meantime, we have to just sort of approve what we have, and that's what this order is.
That's what the order is, yes, there's a smaller map. I don't think the state meant for us to mail the
Oh.
large map to them. So there's a
Hope not.
smaller map attached to it,
Yeah.
and then, of course, we send the shape files and then the written
Oh,
description.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, do we need a motion for this?
I think so,
That's what I was,
yeah.
let's,
Move to
you wanna look at it first?
present I'll move to approve the precinct, map, and written description and order.
I second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we're gonna sign this thing and be done with it for now. With a caveat that we'll come back to it.
There's also Beaver Water District too.
Ooh.
We're not sure how Beaver Water District will work. It's a weird voting district that we've always, I'm having Jeff look at it. We've always been told, like, even though the district lines might run through a precinct, if part of the precinct is in it, then the whole precinct is considered in it.
Oh,
I don't know.
that sounds like a legal question.
Is that just because it's just the water district?
So,
Find what a funny thing.
It is, but they do elect a board.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
do file for that board position in
Right.
July, and so we will have to figure out how the Beaver Water
Before then.
works.
Yeah.
And
In
they-
July, they file.
It's weird.
How does it work? I'm
They-
not sure I've ever seen an opposed election with one.
You haven't, it's been a long time since we've had actually a contested race. They file at a different filing period than everyone else. Like, they have their own week of filing,
Huh.
separate from municipal, separate from any other candidates, school candidates, everything. And so, but yeah, they elect a board, and so we, put them on the general election ballot, and you have to know which precincts
Yeah,
are
right,
in
right.
that Beaver Water District. So that's another area we're gonna have to look at as well, so, yeah.
And that'll be here before we know it. I hate to say it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah.
We're,
Approving it before then,
wow,
yeah.
okay. Well, we do have some things ahead of us then on that. All right, sign the notice of election, early voting dates. What
So
are we-
this has all the early voting sites that we talked about, with, the limited early voting sites, and then the date, that each of those sites will be open.
Okay.
And nothing has changed since the last time that we discussed the early voting sites. We'll have Covenant, open on both Saturdays.
Good.
Elmdale's open on both Saturdays.
Great.
Tawnytown City Hall open on both Saturdays.
That's great.
And then Quorum Court will be open on both Saturdays. So we'll have 4
Good deal.
locations open both Saturdays.
That's terrific.
The other sites, such as Elkins, Prairie Grove, West Fork, and Lincoln, are not open that second Saturday.
Oh.
And then we won't have any sites open the Monday before the election, except for the Quorum Court. And then the limited voting sites, have their hours reflected as well.
I mean, in the future, for that Monday, I know we don't ever have any other locations open except the Quorum Court. Could we have locations open that were early voting and election day locations? Like, would you have the staff to be able to do that, if you're not moving equipment at those locations?
It is possible for us to do it. One of the reasons we don't is because we have to transition the voting equipment over to election day. And so making sure that we have the appropriate staff to do that, because we have to bring back the DS200, we have to switch the tablet information. So there's a lot of little things that go into it to switch it over, and
You have to bring the DS200.
No, we have to close it in a special way and then put in a new stick and get it ready to go. The same thing with the tablets. We have to log them out and log them back in. And it's possible in the future, at some point we could. I've just never wanted to take a risk of something going wrong, but.
Well, no, that's fair. I understand. It's funny because it's just another voting day. I mean, the Tuesday of Election Day. We think of it differently, right? And the machine thinks of it differently, early voting and Election Day. But really, that's just another day in a 2-week election period. It's no different.
It is.
So anyway, if that's what you have to do, close it and then transfer it over to Election Day voting. That's fine, I understand. But practically, there's nothing different.
There's
same number of voters are able to vote, everyone's eligible.
Right.
Just whether it's open or not.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something down the road that'll be changed.
That and, having enough staff that we can make sure that it's done properly, always making sure that those early vote numbers are accurate, and then we have the equipment set up and ready to go for Election Day. Has always been like, in my mind, we don't want to start off Election Day with mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's one of the reasons, in part, we've always just done the early voting here at the courthouse on Monday, so that we have that Saturday to do it. But I understand, and it's something to think about.
If you had folks you could send who you knew would
could do it
properly.
Yeah.
You could do it just for a couple locations, Elmdale, Covenant, I don't know, other ones that are early voting and Election Day. Something to think about.
And the fact we have more sites that are staying, definitely.
Yeah.
It's
Definitely
something to think about, because in the past, we had to move the equipment, but then those poll workers had to go to their place to set up.
Yeah.
But ideally, these poll workers would be the poll workers that are working there that day. So,
Definitely.
Okay.
And then Election Day,
Which is also in here.
also reflects closing St. Joseph's and opening up Town City Hall. That's the only change from voting from the primary from the general election in 2020.
Okay, so this, we sign this and it goes where?
So this is basically the commission will approve this. So this is you approving the polling locations and the early vote sites.
All of the questions that we had from our last meeting have been resolved.
Yes. And then this document is filed in the county clerk's office.
Okay.
As part of the election process. And then it is posted at each of the polling locations on Election Day, and obviously during early vote, and it's published in the newspaper.
That's what I was gonna say, is this the full thing that you will publish?
Yes, this is the full thing that we'll publish. It's one of the reasons our publishing cost is,
So high.
$1,000 for this. But it is published in the paper twice. We do it in the retail section, but then of course we, put all of this information on the website as well.
Okay, I was gonna on the second page, do you have a copy of it? Can you bold Fayetteville Public Library, week 1, and the same for Shiloh, week 1?
Yes, I can.
And then on, Lincoln, week 2?
Yes.
To be bolded. It's a little bit, and this is just format, but it's a little bit confusing with week 2. I don't know if you guys can see this.
So yes, I had an empty box there, and I didn't know what to put.
And it's just for this one.
So if you have a suggestion, I can change that.
I hate for you to have to, push some of this, the election day vote centers, to the next page, but could you, make it a full, you've got 2 boxes, make it a full box on top, it doesn't have to be that big, just to say week 2.
I can do it more narrow and then do a full
Kinda
box
like-
below it.
Kinda like the limited off-site early vote
Do you even
box.
need that box at all? Because there's nothing that says week 1, you just have the specific dates for the other one and for Lincoln.
That's true, yeah,
I
So
can,
that doesn't,
it doesn't have
it all
to do
just says-
anything.
I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
It was just an empty box, and so I thought it needed something.
Yeah,
It
well,
doesn't need anything.
I-
Just delete it.
Yeah, I would just delete it. I think it is, confusing.
It is. Now, I will tell you, the way it looks on the website
Is
does
better.
not look
Okay.
like this
Okay,
at
yeah.
all.
And so maybe it's not even a problem.
So, well,
But
for
yeah, I
the
agree to
newspaper, we
delete it.
wanted,
Yeah, I agree to
for the
delete it off
newspaper, we
PDF.
wanted a little cleaner, so I can clean
Yeah,
it up for the
yeah.
newspaper, so that's not an
Okay.
issue and what we post. And then I also will take this early voting and limited voting and make its own page.
Oh, good,
Same with
okay,
the election day site. And
okay.
those will be PDFs that I'll load to the website that someone
Super,
print
yes.
with those. But,
Okay.
but I feel like I can make those changes and the commissions can still go ahead and sign.
Yeah.
Yeah,
this,
I agree, I agree.
Since we're not changing
The content,
the content, it's really
yeah.
the layout of it.
Didn't you send us like a Excel document that had the date at the top and then a column with each of the locations and then which one was
yeah.
open?
Yeah.
I thought that was a beneficial thing
Yeah.
that might, maybe could
Yeah.
put on the website, because you
That's
can
true.
look then what date it is.
Right, and the
May
times.
13th, 14th,
Yeah.
and then go down and see which one,
Right,
which sites are open. I
Yeah.
thought that was a user-friendly format
yeah,
if you're trying to vote on a certain date.
right. Yeah, I agree.
I can do that as well. And then on the site, I also have listed separately, so I have all the sites listed and the dates they're open, and then at the bottom, I have the ones that are open on Saturdays
Oh, good,
and
yeah,
listed with their dates, and then the ones that are open, the site that's open on Monday. So I do have that separated out, but I can add that, kind of, I'll look at it.
If there's a good way to put it on there.
Yeah.
It just was a quick, easy way to
mhm,
see
mhm,
what polling sites are open today.
Right.
You know, and then you just look at what the date is.
right. Okay, so we've signed it, I guess, in essence, we should have a motion, stating that we signed it. So I will entertain a motion on that.
To approve the election day and early vote locations as presented on the document.
All in favor,
Aye.
say aye. Aye. Okay. And that's election day voting centers too. Absentee ballot canvassing.
That date is in the early vote election.
Oh, it's in there.
It's
Okay.
included as well.
Okay.
We'll start the Tuesday, that we're allowed to start, which is the Tuesday before election day, canvassing, and then we'll go the whole week of canvassing. I
Okay.
don't think it'll take us the whole week, but
Yeah.
we have given ourselves the time.
It never hurts to
Right.
have the extra time. Okay, and then I'm early in election day canvass date, and I assume you meant time.
Time, yes. So that will be the 24th. We'll start at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
In the forum courtroom, and then, of course, we're there all
Okay.
day. Well, of course, we don't release any numbers until after 7:30,
All right,
so
okay. Okay, is that all on
that is it.
the election going forward? Okay, the next item is the appointment of designee to attend required coordinator training, and that is, in Little Rock, lucky you.
Yes.
And I think it's, pretty obvious that Jennifer is our, designee. Got a problem with that?
Anyone else?
So this is, I would love to take someone else with me, but the way they put this time together for us, and it is in Little Rock, we're doing LNA that week for everything. I would love to take Debbie with me, but if there's a problem while we're doing LNA, she can fix it on the spot.
Yeah.
If she's in Little Rock with me,
She
then
can,
they all have to stop
yeah,
fair.
what they're doing and wait on her to get back.
yeah,
This coordinator's training, quite frankly, should have been in
right,
January.
right,
Before
yeah.
filing started, before anything started.
You're in the thick of it now.
Exactly, so
People need to be, especially, what were some of those poor new counties that had all new folks? you
Oh,
know?
yeah,
I bet
oh,
you've already made that known, haven't you?
yes. So
oh,
I
my
just,
goodness.
so I
They're
feel
doing it
like
without the
taking
training.
someone with me is taking someone away from the office.
Yeah.
It's bad enough, I'm going, and they haven't even said anything about the teaching of classes for me,
Oh.
and I'm good with just going.
Yeah, yeah,
At this point, you know, so, I think, you know, the timing, I know Kim, this is when she's doing her LNA as
Right.
well.
Mm.
So, taking an extra person means I'm taking an extra person away from the
Right.
office,
Yeah, fair.
and I don't feel like we can afford to do that.
Yeah, that's fair.
As for this one, going in the future, if they do it before
Mhm,
filing
mhm.
starts, I think
It'll
would
be
be
fine.
Oh,
beneficial.
Yeah.
definitely.
But as it is, it's all hands on deck right now,
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
so have you decided when?
I'd like to go the 12th. I've
Okay,
kind of talked to Kim and Megan and
Oh,
County. We'd all like to go on the same days.
yeah. Well, I'm just gonna fill in your name
Okay.
and give a signature to it, and you can fill out the rest of it.
All right.
I hadn't even thought about how late it is for that.
Then we start poll worker training the next week. And then the next week is kind of like your last week to get everything together before we start delivering for early vote. You know, so
Yeah, yeah.
it's, their calendar is super tight,
Yeah.
so.
Well, well, shoot, I forgot what I was gonna ask. Whatever it was, I guess I put that over there. We'll take care of it when I figure it out, I don't remember. All right, we've got one other item here, which is this new business?
It's other business.
Okay,
I thought about it, and I've been thinking about it, and just kept forgetting to add it to the agenda. This other
new piece of
item,
legislation.
yes, is to allow Becky's office to assist us with absentee ballots if we feel like we need their assistance.
Right.
New legislation law that passed said that once Becky gives the ballots to us, the absentee ballots, and we have opened it up, she can't touch them, she can't help us with them, she can't do anything with them.
Can't
Can't.
assist, can't.
No.
Prohibited.
From touching the envelope, the voter statement,
How's that work in counties where it's just like the county clerk is really the one?
you have to
Doing
sign
it.
this. So they made an exception that if the election commission
Delegate.
allows the county clerk's office to assist, they can, but they have to basically sign an order or resolution stating that they're okay with the county clerk's office doing that. Now, granted, we have a staff that canvasses, but you just don't ever know what might come up,
Right.
that we might need Becky's assistance, you know, or anyone else in her office, and so this way we have it if we need it.
Sure.
And so we're not violating that new election law,
Wow.
so.
Okay, well, the law is, printed here, so we know, and really, that's not a bad thing to do, is to have that on every time.
Yeah.
Just as a reminder that we need to adopt this resolution, that the county clerk
Huh?
can,
Is there any sort of can we sign it one time and it's
I
effective thereafter, you know?
designated all the elections for this year.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
felt
good,
like if
good.
we, you know, because the law specifically says for a designated task and election. So I felt like, okay, I'll just designate the elections for this year.
Yeah.
And next year, we'll just do one to
same thing
designate the
again,
election.
yeah.
Well,
It'll be
So
kind of
following.
pro forma at that point.
You can always include a line in there, something like, and all elections
In
henceforth,
perpetuity,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just to cover our bases if we forget.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
in a county like this where
That's a good point.
you work so closely with the county clerk, the county clerk staff,
I know.
you
I
know.
can't imagine.
Yeah, it's,
Doing
you
without
wouldn't wanna
them?
be barred
Oh.
from doing that, you know?
I can't, but I know that, you know, this is part of that legislation.
Right.
Came out of some things that happened in other counties.
Yeah.
And there was questions on why were absentee ballots going upstairs to the clerk's office?
Yeah.
Why were they looking at things when the commission or the designated people were the only ones who were supposed to be doing it?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And I mean, those are legitimate questions that people who don't know the process, would have.
yeah.
And, you know, it's reasonable to let them see. I mean, that's part of the transparency that is all the more being asked for. Okay. Other business.
We will need to meet sometime, obviously for this part,
Right.
but we also will need to meet, I just need to sit down and designate election day sites for the runoff election.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So for one, we know we won't be able to open the Von Richardson Center because of
Ooh.
that. So we have to sign a new order saying that it won't be open for the runoff. But if for some reason we don't have a countywide runoff, we still have like a JP District 14, a Senate 35. There's a couple of other like smaller potential runoffs that obviously we wouldn't want to open up something in Evansville if they're not even, you know, eligible to vote in that race. So I need to sit down and figure out which polling locations are inside of those JP districts and Senate districts and rep districts, and then we'll need to sign something for that, but we'll need to do it, you know, here within the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right, so do we need a meeting next week if indeed you hear from GIS, or what is the situation on that?
Yes, I would think so, just simply because we would want, you know, people are looking for these.
Right, right.
And granted, it's a small, tiny little area, but then that would clean everything up. And so as soon as I hear from Shelby, and then of course I'll have to get with Northwest Regional to get us that new, but she is fully aware of it. I mean, Jess pointed this out to us back before we even approved our JP map.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
So this was gonna be an issue.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so.
Okay, so, well, I mean, I guess we're kind of, we can't really decide on a meeting unless we get info from the state.
Right.
GIS. So, are you guys on board for something next week without being definite about it?
Yeah, I was trying to look at my calendar.
What's the best date for y'all? Assuming we hear from, and it would be a short meeting.
It would just be to approve just a tiny little map and written description. So it would probably need to be Thursday, because today's already this Thursday.
Right.
Christina, depending on when we talk to them, is only available Monday and Tuesday.
Oh, yeah.
So Thursday would, in my mind, be the logical day if we hear something for a meeting next week.
Yeah, I think that would work.
Time, what, I mean, I've got an appointment Thursday morning. Mid-morning, so.
That's up to the commission, I don't think.
Are you good on Thursday?
I'm good on Thursday.
Maybe if we do it at 1 on Thursday.
Yeah, I've got a call from noon to probably 2:30.
Okay, so that won't work.
Yeah.
It may have to be a late one then.
Or Friday, I mean, Friday is good too, I mean.
Friday's okay?
I'm just saying that Wednesday would kind of be hard with her not being available, you know,
Right,
depending on when she's available and when they.
Okay.
If it's Friday,
Right.
I need to do it at 1 probably.
What do you got on Friday?
Yeah, I think that would be okay.
Okay, so we can tentatively say, is
Wait.
that, Friday's April Fool's. Is that really what we wanna do?
No, I can't do it on Friday.
All right,
Uh,
okay.
I'm supposed to be receiving a new range that day, and I don't know what time that's
Oh,
gonna be
yeah,
yet.
yeah.
You're at the house all day.
Blocked
Ah.
off all day, I know that
So,
feeling.
and then Monday, the 4th, April the 4th would be,
Is that too late?
I mean, do you wanna just see when they respond and we
we
can schedule it
can,
then?
we can. I don't think April the 4th, this is not a mistake that we
Right,
make.
right.
It is something that is created by the state. It is not something that is going to impact, voters
Mhm.
right now, because absentee ballots haven't gone out, and we can always preemptively move those voters into the right precinct to know and make sure they get the right ballot.
And we can do this
So-
by Zoom if we need to.
Yeah.
For, what, a 10-minute meeting or something? So,
Yeah, so I don't think April 4th would be too late, and maybe
Okay.
by then, too, I would have the polling places for the runoff
yeah,
election.
okay. Well, maybe that's better because we're not rushing. If we don't, since we don't have a firm deadline because we've already covered the paperwork,
Yeah.
this is just more of an amendment to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, next week we may not have to. All right, well, we'll
Wait
just,
to hear.
And then that
Yeah.
following week, I have supervisor training the 5th, 6th, and 7th. So Monday would be the only day kind of for me.
Okay.
I can squeeze in a
If that
meeting in
works.
between supervisor training, but
right, okay. 5th, 6th, and 7th, all right. And, wow, we're coming up on it. All right, well, if there is no other business, we will adjourn.
I have some questions I'd like to ask.
Oh, forgive me, all right.
I'd also like to please ask that, I mean, it's hard to keep up since I don't have copies, and I'm not asking for copies of big stuff like that, but if I could have a copy of the smaller, like we were talking about the map, the smaller map with attachments, you know, just so I could kind of,
Oh,
you know, for future meetings if I could. But also, the smaller map that was mentioned with attachments, Jennifer, is that the one that would be online later this week?
it's right here. It's it's all part of the attachment with the shape files.
I don't know if how helpful it is.
What, the census
That-
block thing?
Yeah, that tiny little map.
Yeah.
It doesn't, because it is so
This one.
tiny, it doesn't even have all the precincts
Yeah, it doesn't
labeled.
Oh.
Because there's no way to do and be
Oh,
able
this
to
one,
kind of
yeah, I
see
see, it's
the
tiny.
map. Now, what will happen is, as soon as
Oh,
the
yeah, I see
clerk
that version,
sends
you can't see
the
anything.
shape files to the Secretary of State's office,
Oh,
that
that
will
goes
then
with
start to update the systems that people are looking at, like data scout and the different mapping, those shape files will be there. But I don't know that this map will be
Terribly
anyone to
beneficial.
look at, because it's part of our requirement. If you see, this is, when you look at it, some of them are so tiny, I mean,
if you want a copy, Jennifer can email it to you, but we may just not post it if it would not be helpful to people. But if you want a copy, definitely, she
Well,
can email it to you.
particularly, I'm interested in a State House Rep 18, where Monique Jones is running, because we've been trying to figure that out, and about the precincts, and so that was the reason why I was asking.
now, I can get you a list of the precincts that are in there, that I can do. And then, like I said, as soon as this is uploaded to the state GIS,
Then it will automatically.
it will automatically appear on all of those other things.
Okay. And when you were talking about early voting sites, Jennifer, you mentioned, I got the Covenant that were open both Saturdays, but what did you mention after the Covenant? Was between Covenant and Tontitown? I didn't hear that one.
Elmdale
Elmdale?
and,
Tontitown.
Tontitown, Covenant, Elmdale Courthouse.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah, that was it.
that was it.
Yeah,
yeah.
that was it.
Okay, and when you talk about canvassing day, could you go into that a little bit? Because, I mean, when I'm canvassing, I'm out knocking doors. And I know that y'all open the ballot, you open envelopes. Okay.
So the canvassing basically is, we take the absentee ballots, it has a voter application,
Mm-hmm.
and we take that application, we open up the ballot received back in the county clerk's office. It has a sealed ballot-only secrecy envelope inside of it, and it includes their voter statement and hopefully a copy of their photo ID. And they then compare the voter statement to the voter application, and then make sure.
The statement to the application.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes,
Now, that process is, online. That's open, I mean, it.
oh, it's open to the public.
You can see it, so
Yeah,
if
but-
you want to
No, I've
watch
been there.
what,
I've
okay,
been there, but I wasn't sure what you were comparing.
gotcha, okay.
Yeah, so they compare the voter statement to the application, and then the voter ID, that's the copy of the photo ID.
Okay,
And-
and if there's no voter ID,
Then it's set aside and it's provisional. And then those voters would have until the Monday following the election to come back in and submit their ID to the county clerk.
This looks like something my
get the
friend,
election for the next Monday.
You know?
he's
Well,
not
I
even
never-
looking at
I
it.
never
And
evolved
so
from
it's
there.
all that paperwork, the canvassing really is just
I'm
them
sorry.
making sure everything
Oh.
matches.
No,
And if it's all
actually, you can read
accepted,
it.
then the ballot-only envelope is set aside and put in a
Yeah.
ballot box. If it's rejected for any reason, such as no signature, birthday's different, address is different, then it's set aside, and completely rejected. And so that's the part of the process that will start that Tuesday before the election.
So how would anyone know?
Can I
if they-
interrupt? Are your questions generally for Jennifer?
Sure.
Okay, because, I mean, if you've got questions for the commissioners, we can go ahead and stay, but, I'm thinking this is really more.
I'll get out of here.
All righty, well, we are adjourned,
Thank you.
and,
Can you send us that PDF of the election day and everything? Was it?
Yes, I will.
Cool.
We're gonna ask
Have a good day, you guys.
So one more question, and then I know I'm bothered.
Oh, no,
But.
Just
so
for your
if
information.
Say if my ballot was
Talk
rejected, how would I know
meeting.
that?
Mhm.
I'd have,
So
I
if your
got
ballot is
someone-
rejected, it's plain rejected, like no signature,
Yeah, I
no
bet
birthday,
that.
just the automatic
Actually,
rejected.
I mean,
You
I
get a letter,
responded. It's during
but you're probably not gonna get a letter until after election.
Well,
day,
she was
because
gonna-
There's no fix
Right.
for it, but you do get a letter from the election.
Is it, county,
That your
or?
ballot
So,
was
Judge
rejected
Lindsay?
and why
Yeah,
it was
Judge
rejected.
Lindsay.
She was gonna call.
To stop this real quick.
It-
Um,
Yeah.
and then,
Yeah.
now for